You're listening to Rock-N-Sexxxy UnCensored, bringing you the cutting edge of the entertainment world weekly, hosted by Lynn.
Woohoo! All right. Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rock-N-Sexxxy UnCensored. Broadcasting on United Broadcasting Network, UBNGO.com, Channel 1, and live streaming on our blog weekly at rocknsexyuncensored.com. I'm your host, Lynn, and joining me is Joe Williamson.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Amber.
How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, and you look absolutely gorgeous.
Well,
As
thank
usual.
you, and thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you back in the studio again. Folks, RNSU works overtime to bring you the cutting-edge talents from the music and entertainment world, and tonight is no exception. Joining us live in the studio, he's a TV producer, writer, and creator. He got his start as a stand-up comic. His big break came after opening for Dennis Miller and being offered to write for him in the 1990s. Luckily, his show got picked up and he went on to write for In Living Color and became known for co-creating and writing the two-time primetime Emmy Award nominated hit series Third Rock from the Sun, starring John Lithgow. He created, produced, and was the showrunner for 200 episodes of the hit Fox television series That 70s Show, which starred Ashton Kutcher, Danny Masterson, and Mila Kunis. And some of his other notable works are Double Dragon and the 2016 Lab Rats. Please welcome to RNSU, Mark Brazil is here in the house with us.
Yay!
How you doing, Mark?
Good.
Good to have you here. Joe's excited to have you in the house, too. Also joining our studio tonight, she's a talented Hollywood film and television actress. She's also seen in commercials. Her credits include The Longest Ride from 2015, which starred Scott Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood's son.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Flesh Mannequins Totally Uncut. Several episodes of the TV series Alias in 2001, and she's appeared on the CBS soap opera The Bold and Beautiful. But her most recent work can be seen in the film Love is Love is Love, directed by Eleanor Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's wifey.
Wow.
Right? And she is working alongside Sybil Shepherd, Rosanna Arquette, and Rita Wilson. Please welcome to our show, Alea Oberon. Hi, Alea. How you doing?
Good.
It's so good to have you. I know. I'm so excited to have you back on the show. You were on the show the first time back in
2015.
It was 2015, a long time ago, right?
Right after The Longest Ride, yeah.
Well, welcome back. I know we
Thank
talked about your
you.
movie then, and it was such a hit to have you on the show. And as a lot of people know, Alea is not only a very talented Hollywood actress, but she is also a very, very dear old friend of mine, and I am honored to host you
Thank
on
you.
my show, sweet
I'm so
lady.
honored to be here.
Thank you.
And you're amazing. I've always been such a fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. You've always definitely supported me in everything, and me as you as well.
Yeah.
I was telling Joe about you in the car on the way here.
Yeah.
So let's break this down, folks. Not only do we have two very, very talented people in the studio tonight, but as I think you can already tell, they might just be a couple.
Yes. We are partners and we are partners.
You
So-
are partners in life.
And we formed a production company, which I think is a bigger commitment than marriage, really, when you think about it. You know.
Yeah.
What is the name of our production company?
Elmar.
You should be I do.
Elmar.
Elmar.
It's
Well,
called
see,
Elmar.
Elmar
Elmar,
Enterprises,
which is-
boldly going where
Oh.
many production companies have gone
Right.
before.
Oh my
Elmar
God.
Enterprises.
I can't wait to hear all about it. But let's start from the beginning so we can give our viewers just a little bit of backstory on both of you guys because they don't, know you like I do. So, Mark, how did you get started? Were you always focused on being a TV writer? You were a
No.
stand-up comic?
Yeah, I was a stand-up comic. I didn't even think about being a writer. I'm from upstate New York. I'm from Buffalo. And
I know Buffalo.
Do you?
Yeah, of course I do. I used to dance and live in Niagara Falls, right across the
Oh.
border.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up there, and I worked in a dog food factory when I was 16. And so
What did you do?
what I did was the dumbest job in the world, and I lied about my age to work there. And there's this assembly line that goes by with the 10-pound bags of dog food, and the bags are open. And my job was to put the little coupon in the bag as they went by, and it went by pretty quick. And so all night I'd be doing this, and then the girl at the end of the line, she goes, "The line stopped." And, everybody's got like headphones on. I'm like, "No, it didn't." She goes, "Yeah, the line stopped." I go, "It's still moving." And she goes, "Look in the bag." And I look in the bag, and there's like 20 coupons in there because I'm completely hypnotized by the bag. And so then they go, "Okay, well, I got replaced by a suction cup on an arm that just did this, flicked the bag and flicked the coupon in each bag." And I was like, "Oh, I guess you guys are going to let me go." And they go, "No, somebody's got to watch the suction cup."
Oh my God.
And so that was my job. So
I
yeah,
never
I was,
realized that there was that much work put into
Oh,
putting
yeah.
the coupon in the dog food bag.
Oh,
I
I
will
know.
never open up another bag of dog food again, though, really, and just like take the coupon and go like this.
Yeah, I was
Which is
classic.
usually what we do,
Don't
right?
throw it. That's a very important piece of document. So what? Yeah.
No, it is important though when you realize it because you never think that much effort that there's some kid in a factory somewhere who's putting this coupon in and that's his soul.
Yeah, that was my job.
That was
I
your
was
job.
What's known as skilled labor.
So at that point in
so-
your life, what did you want to be? Did you want?
I had no ambitions to do anything other than just make a life. I mean, this town I was from, you didn't ever dream that you would be. So I think, I used to think, I never had it in my mind to be a comedian. And then my mother sent me these notebooks I had from 8th grade. And it
Were
was
you
like,
funny though? Were you a naturally
yeah, I was
funny kid?
incredibly, no, I wasn't funny at all. I was very sarcastic and shitty. I was the youngest of 4.
Coming from Buffalo,
Yeah.
that surprises
I know,
me.
Buffalo.
All my friends from Buffalo are kind of like that.
Yeah,
Right.
it is. It's like New York City without the accent. We still, same sort of thing. Actually, my friend said everything above 110th Street is upstate New York. So
Right.
I'm way upstate. I'm from the shore of Lake Erie.
Did you go across the border though to Canada and do
Oh,
all
yeah.
that? Yeah, because everybody
So-
we went back and forth all the time. I remember.
Well, when we were kids, kids, back in the 70s, they just let you in bars. Nobody really checked your ID. They're like, well, if we check their IDs and they can't come in, they can't buy drinks, so just let them in. But we used to drive to Canada to get Brador.
and to get 4% stronger beer.
That's exactly right. Isn't that absurd?
Yeah.
We're like, this beer's stronger, so we gotta,
Yep.
And we had a cassette, like one of those little cassettes that doctors used to use to record their sessions, and we would listen to Cheech and Chong, because we didn't have a stereo in the car, of course.
Oh my God,
we
we
had
did
an AM radio.
exactly the same
Yeah.
thing.
And
It's
we
so
would just
funny.
be high as shit,
We're kumbaya,
What-
Cheech and Chong. I was actually later on in their film Up in Smoke, which was like a massive thing for me because I had grown up as a kid, like just worshiping Cheech and Chong, and then we wound up.
That's awesome.
Right.
I didn't
Yeah.
know
It was just as extras. We were just some part of whatever. But yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a big deal to us back then.
We do what we do. I was an extra in, Little Nikita.
Oh.
And I was I think it was Little Nikita, and it was the parade scene, and River Phoenix walked down the street, and I'm like waving a flag, yeah. Like,
But you're in a film with River Phoenix.
yeah, that's what I
right?
say. I made a film with River. Gave him some tips.
With River and I.
I met Leonardo.
Kumbaya.
I met Leonardo DiCaprio at a comic book shop with Michael Rappaport, and I think he was probably 20.
Uh-huh.
And Michael's like, "Hey, Mark, this is Leo." And Leonardo DiCaprio goes, "Hi." That's it. That's all. So if you live here long enough, like I think Sidney Poitier was in that River Phoenix film. So
He was. I remember that.
Was he?
Yeah. Yes.
I have a
Joe is
story.
like the movie. He knows everything about movies and everything. So.
I have a Sidney Poitier story also, if you want to hear it.
Well, let's start with how you got started. First of all, you started as a stand-up comic. So one day you said, "I think I'm funny. I'm going to go into stand-up," right?
I love you ask one question and then 30 minutes later. And then also, after the dog food factory, I got a sandwich. And it was a good sandwich. I will tell you. No, all right. So I moved to California. It's like 1981. I'm 19 years old. And the Comedy Store is up in La Jolla. And I think I should just, because I'm the funniest car salesman on the lot. And I was selling cars on the border of Mexico. I was in Chula Vista.
Uh-huh.
And so I start going to the Comedy Store in La Jolla. And I'm like doing open mic nights. And I'm developing stuff. I'm like, I was always a better writer than a comedian, and now I think they've leveled out. Maybe.
Were you writing then? Had you
I
started?
was writing just for myself, and
Because
then
writing is not easy to do. I've written some projects myself, and mostly because, when you want to get something done,
yeah,
you sit down and go, "I'm going to create my own movie around me," and whatever you're going to do, right? Because people won't give you the part you want or whatever. But writing is not as easy as one would think.
I always wrote. I was always like, I actually wrote poetry for years before.
When you
I
were
became-
young.
Yeah, when I was young.
So you never stopped and said, I'm gonna write a series."
No, it was always like, well, I'm a comedian now, and then comedians at the Comedy
And you were doing
Store.
good. You were open for Dennis Miller,
Yeah, I did a lot of television shows.
who I adore, by the way. He was always super funny. So was that like a big break?
Oh yeah, because I was working for all the improvs, and I had tried at the Comedy Store, and Mitzi just didn't dig me,
She didn't?
No, God no.
Well, she could be that way though. She could be like hit and miss, and if she was like having a bad day, I know her son Paulie from
I remember
back
Paulie.
then, and
So I
and
remember.
she's gone now.
Yeah, she's gone, but she was great. She, a lot of female comics never would have made it, and the business, a lot of trailblazers, Lois Bromfield and Carrie Snow, Kathy Ladman, Roseanne. These people don't make it without Mitzi, because it was a very male, misogynistic sort of business. It still is, but it really was then. So Mitzi just didn't, and it's all it's never personal. So I can remember she wouldn't pass me. I knew Gary Shandling a little bit, and I said to Gary, yeah, Mitzi wouldn't pass me. So I'm at the Improv, and Gary's like, yeah, she wouldn't pass me either. And I said,
You're in good company.
Well, but then he goes,
Well, that's
then he got his own
great, though,
show.
because that lets you know that it's not about you.
Yeah, it's not,
it's one of those aha moments where the universe kind of gives you that, it's not you, kid. And we need those moments, right? Because it can be crushing.
Well, I went to a psychic, and I was like, when I was like a kid, or in my 20s, which is a kid to me, and I said, I'm gonna make it at the Comedy Store, right? And she's like, well, and I'm like, no, wait, I work there. And she's like, no, I don't. I said, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're gonna make it, but you're not gonna probably make it there. And I was like devastated. And then it turns out Bud Friedman gave me everything. Once I went to the Improv, I worked Chicago, I worked Miami, I worked everywhere. All of his clubs, Tempe, he had like 15 clubs. And I got booked at all of them. So I did make it, not at the store though. So Gary got the It's Gary Shandling show, and then all of a sudden he's a regular at the Comedy Store, and he ran into Mitzi in the hall, and he said, and she goes, oh, Gary, does everybody treat you different now that you're famous? And he said, no, Mitzi, just you. So, which I thought was brilliant. So yeah, it's like it's usually never personal. It's just, and by the way, I look back on things and I go, it's a good thing this didn't happen because this happened and it wouldn't have gone that way. And the Improv is actually a better place because they had so many clubs and you could make such a good living. And the store had like 3.
Yeah, because in comedy, Russell Peters is a friend of mine, and I have a lot of friends that are comedians, and they do well. really, really well. As a matter of fact, a lot of people now progress from acting or other writing or whatever to have a stand-up act because that's a really great in-between gigs type of, thing to do for,
Well, and if
for
you-
many of us.
If you do that, you can do it forever. If you saw George Carlin at the end, he was as good or if not better than he'd ever been, and it didn't matter how old he was. You can do it forever as long as you have something to say and you want to do it. Like I still do it. I still go to
Oh, you
clubs.
do? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
and I wanted to talk about that. But what I want to do is, okay, so here we are with Dennis Miller. So you meet
Yeah.
up with Dennis Miller, right?
I opened for him at the Cleveland Improv. They had
I love that story because it's such a great story about struggle. Here you are, you're working on comedy, and then you get.
Well, they were supposed to fly me to Chicago on Monday, and the manager of the Improv in Cleveland, her name was Sarah Nye, and she said, "I want you to stay over and open for him. I don't have anybody local that I like." And they go, "But it's $150 to change your plane ticket." And the Improv's like, "Yeah, we don't want to spend that. Find somebody." And Sarah Nye's like, "No, I don't want to find somebody. I just want to keep Mark over one night." And so I said, "I'll pay the $150," because I really looked up to Dennis Miller at that point. And so
He's great.
he used to be better. Let's put it that way. So
Dennis.
so I got kept over, and that's it. She paid to keep me over, and I kept over, and I opened for him. We did 2 shows, and at the end of it, he said, "I don't do material like you do, but if I did, I'd do the material you do." And I said, "Well, thanks a lot," because he was like a big hero to me. And he said, "If I get my own TV show, will you write for it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he had just left Weekend Update the week before, I think. And then he did. He immediately got a show on WGN in Chicago, and Johnny Carson was stepping down. That was a brutal time, though, because Dennis, Helen Kushnick would not allow any Tonight Show guests to do his show. So it was just brutal. And I was of the
So
mind.
when he said, "Will you write for it?" did he mean, "Will you write jokes for me, or will you
Yeah.
write the show?"
No,
And
I don't
so
write
this,
that. I just write jokes.
Okay, so you write jokes.
I did the Billboard Awards a couple times, and I just write the jokes. I wrote everything for Phil Collins for the 2 shows, which was awesome.
Wow.
Whitney Houston sang to me. I don't want to drop a name and brag, but she did.
I would drop Whitney's name if she sang to me. Yeah.
She's it was amazing. 'Cause I was
Especially
like,
now that she's no longer with us. God bless you to the family.
I was like one of the only people in the auditorium for the sound check at Universal, and other people are like putting up lights, and I'm just sitting in the front row writing, and she has no one to sort of focus on. So she focused on me. "I'm going to run to you." And I'm just like, "Oh my God.
Whitney's singing, "She's gonna run to me. Come on, Whitney."
Yeah, she was amazing. And she's in sweatpants. And
And you
everybody
pee your
was
pants, and
like,
you're
"Oh
just
my
sitting
God."
there going, "Ah."
Oh, Whitney.
She's like, right?
I'm sure she probably still talked about me for years, too.
Right? She never forgot. It's just like, God, damn it.
That geeky writer at Universal, oh my God, whatever happened to him?
And so you said, is this your aha moment where you said, "I'm going to write. This is what I do. This is my calling.
Well,
Now I'm a writer."
I had done tons of shows. There were tons of shows back in the 80s and 90s. There's like Comic Strip Live and all these, comedy shows. Oh, the MTV half-hour comedy hour, which I did. We were shooting that at Hofstra University in New York, and it's huge. It's like a huge audience. And so I had done a bunch of shows. I was like not sorry to leave stand-up at that moment because I'm living in LA and I don't want to go away anymore. So while, Dennis offers me a job, that's my first show. I get in the WGA. It's 1990 or 91. And that was it. Then
And
I
you're
was-
like, "I'm not even a writer. I just write jokes."
Well, that's all the show
Right?
was. It was all just jokes. I didn't write interviews. I mean, clearly the
Like you didn't
interviews
write
weren't
the
written.
format of the show.
No,
You didn't
no.
block the show.
No, I had
Okay.
nothing to do with that at that point. I was just a writer. I mean, as time goes by, if you're lucky, you get up to a point where it's like you're a showrunner, and that doesn't happen to everybody. But the showrunner has to really sort of do a lot on a show.
And then you took off and you went into In Living Color,
Yeah,
one of the
Oh wait,
most iconic shows.
Yeah.
please don't forget the Chevy Chase show.
Okay.
Which I also wrote for.
Oh,
I thought
my
that-
goodness. You wrote for Chevy Chase? I didn't even know that. You know, you need to go in and have somebody do a forensic update on your bio information because there's so much stuff that's not there. And people, really, I'm a Virgo. And I do my research on my guests. So I usually can pull things that people are like, oh, I can't believe you found that on me. You know, a little baby picture from you. And you're like, you know, oh, God, did my mom really let you have that? But
IMDb, though, it's like not only is there stuff not on there, there's stuff on there I had nothing to do with.
I hate that.
I had a friend, Joel Madison, who said, hey,
I
will
love
you
Chevy
call,
Chase.
will you call IMDb? Because they keep saying I worked on that 70s show. He never did. And so I did. I said, does it matter? It's a good credit. He goes, yeah, but I didn't work on there. And I have no idea where they got that from.
Who, IMDb? Which
Yeah.
is really funny because all you need to do is go in, and Joe's good at updating the IMDb because we have a little thing with them now because they sent me a message and said we want to accredit your show. So we're accredited on IMDb for our talent when they come on.
Fancy.
Yeah, so it gives you a little boost. Gives you a little boost in your ratings when you come and do the Rock-N-Sexxy show now, and everybody gets real happy about that, you know. So
my oldest daughter is hysterical. Like probably like 15 years ago, she went onto Wikipedia and put in that I spoke 4 languages, which I don't. I'm a classical pianist. She put all this shit in there.
Didn't they cut
Why
your
did you do that?
Wikipedia? They did definitely. They
No, they
dissected your Wikipedia then.
Yeah, they said this is all bullshit.
Oh, they did, and then they
Yes.
lock. Okay, because they'll
Yeah.
do that. Then they'll lock your page.
Yeah, so that's what happened because I thought that was hysterical that she would go in there and fuck around and do that. She
Kids
just thought
do
it'd be
that.
funny. You know, she's a teenager.
Right.
So yeah, I mean online, I love and hate the internet. I love the internet because it teaches me how to tie dye, and I hate the internet because whether it's Instagram or
Well, you can never
Twitter,
rely on the
you know.
information that you're getting off of the internet to actually
anymore.
be good information. I
Well-
mean, it'll come on and tell you exactly how to tie dye a T-shirt, and then you'll go do it, and you'll be like, "Well,
No, you got to look at
look
a
at my
bunch.
this is bullshit. What happened?" You'll be like, "No, it looks good." No, it doesn't look anything like it said it was gonna look.
The internet is
true.
like, oh, hey, I learned how to tie-dye shirts, but then the internet destroyed democracy, so it's sort of a trade-off that you...
It's true, isn't it?
But what I hate about the internet, what I hate about Twitter is somebody will post something, a news story or whatever, and then somebody makes a joke, and it's a funny joke, and then 15 other people say the same thing like an hour or two later, and I'm like, well, you know, the internet is the sincerest form of plagiarism, I think.
Yes,
That's
it
like,
is.
it's
Boy, they they definitely do that. So from there, you went to Third Rock. Let's talk about Third Rock because Third Rock, you won your first nomination.
Yeah, I had
You were
two.
nominated twice, right? So now we're coming into the 90s. So in 1997 and 1998.
That's when I did 70s, but in the mid 90s I was on Third Rock, which by the way, the most famous.
You co-created Third Rock.
No, I was a writer producer on Third
Okay.
Rock. Turner's co-created it. However, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was on that show, and he's a huge deal. You know, he was in Inception. Do you know who Joseph Gordon-Levitt
Oh
is?
yeah.
You know.
Right.
But he's a little boy on the show, and then he did that 70s
He was
show.
a little boy.
Oh, yeah.
This is when he was really young, right?
Yeah, he was really young, but he was amazing. He was always amazing. You knew he was amazing. But he also did that 70s show, and here's a historical fact for you, which some people go, oh, well, Dawson's Creek had the first male kiss or something, or Picket Fences, coincidentally, Picket Fences has a male kiss with Stephen Tobolowsky and Kurtwood Smith. Kurtwood Smith played the father on my show. However, the first
That's an interesting piece
It
of
is.
trivia. I didn't know that.
The first male
No.
kiss in prime time between two men
Yep.
was Topher Grace and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Joey guest starred on my show. Yeah, you can't call
Was
him
it on
Joey.
your show that it
Oh, yeah.
that it occurred? And
Yeah.
which show was it? Third Rock? Was it Third
No,
Rock?
it was that 70s show.
That 70s show. Okay, now we get into something that I do know about, which is that 70s show. And that show was super awesome. I mean, everything
I was
about it
happy
I
with
loved.
that.
I mean, it was one of those shows where you immediately knew the opening song. You could sing it for every word, and it had such a great feel to it. It just flowed. And you created 200 episodes of this show, right?
Yeah, it lasted 8 years, and the
From pilot. Now,
from pilot to the end, it's 200 episodes.
now this was your concept. Correct me if I'm
Based on
wrong.
his life.
Loosely based on your life and
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
upbringing, right?
Mhm.
So you said, I'm going to create this. And
Well, Karen Mandebach was one of the executives at Carsey Warner, and she said she loved the ice storm. She said, we need to make a show set in the 70s. And so that we just thought, well, because people were like, what's the show? We said, oh, it's Friends and Bell Bottoms, which if you look at Friends and then you look at Archie and then you look at Charlie Brown,
well, everybody
you could
wanted to
see every
compete with
character.
Friends back in
Yeah.
those days. But I don't see that it was Friends. You want to take a little look? Tony, do we have a little clip of it? We're going to show our viewers just a little clip, just give you a little taste. That 70s.
It's the biggest phenomenon since disco.
Come on, you're not even fighting back.
Why would he fight back? His face is stuck between your toes.
Foreplay is very important.
Oh, no, it's not.
I can't stop thinking about you. I want you. I want you so bad.
Eric, it's a car.
Donna beat you in basketball? Is that a big deal? Of course not. Unless Donna happens to be a girl.
That's game. It's great.
Well, I'm not riding in the back.
Eric, Kelso, get in the back. You wouldn't think a girl had like that much tongue. They called me Dr. Pee-Pee. You know, who cares? I'm Dr. Pee-Pee. I'm Dr. Pee-Pee.
We're back. We're visiting here today with Mark Brazil and Alea Oberon. How you doing? So, which one of the characters was you?
Well, I was Eric, and I was Eric.
Okay, so Eric was
the sarcastic Topher Grace was Eric.
Okay, because I was thinking he was Ashton Kutcher. We were trying to guess which character was you.
No, I was Ashton in my 20s.
You
I
were?
was a teenager. I was
So
Topher.
how come you didn't have an episode where he's packing dog food bags?
I don't know.
That's such a great story. I would have thought you would have put that in the series, right?
See, it's funny because it's like if you truly knew what happened, it was not. Like that's based on my first year of high school when everything was cool, and then I got kicked out of that school and I got sent to an inner city school and everything changed. So happy, funny, sweet Eric Foreman became, druggy, gang member, bastard, because I had to survive.
Right.
So it's
What
interesting.
member
I never
of
told that
what
part
gang
of the story.
were you involved in?
We didn't have gangs. We had frats in high school. And it's really a very isolated to that area. I'd never heard about it
We all were
anywhere
a part
else.
of those type. My older brothers were the West Orange Lodies.
Right.
And then my other brother was in the West Orange Street Rods, which they all drove like fast, hot Camaros, 69 Camaros, and like Chevelles.
Well,
and
we had all those muscle
right.
cars.
We did all the muscle cars, and they were my older brothers, and they were all my heroes. And that was the kind of it was a gang per se, but they weren't out robbing old ladies' purses.
We were.
They were. Oh,
we
you were?
actually did that. Yes.
Okay.
Well, we were violent kids. We were on the outskirts of.
There was a lot of violence in our youth. Yeah.
We were like the outsiders. We were not. We didn't have good shoes. We didn't have Camaros. I mean, we had old piece of shit V8s.
We built them in the garages. I mean,
Well,
my
that's the
brothers
thing.
built them in the garages.
That's what I think is funny today. Some kid was like, "You don't know who Emotional Damage Guy is?" I go, "No, but I do know how to rebuild an engine."
Right.
So,
Actually,
I
I'm
should-
pretty good too. I could definitely assist you in that because my brother used to always have me like assist.
Mostly small blocks. I did a Dodge when I restored a Dodge Coronet convertible in 1969. You couldn't get a Charger convertible, and I like the rag tops. So that was like my first car was a 69 Coronet convertible, which
Wow.
I totally spent every weekend. I kissed that car's ass. You know, that car was like, it had a copper top radiator, which little tiny, finest grit sandpaper. I took all the paint off of it. I put colored hoses on it. I was obsessed with that car.
So you're in your own now with that 70s show. You've got 200 episodes. You're just kicking ass, and you were nominated on. You were on the list of co-creators, or that was on the list for Third Rock, and then you went on to that 70s show. So this is now your show. This is you creating.
Yeah, 70s was my show. I was a showrunner, you know, and the showrunner is the one who really charts it. I will tell you, I left after the 5th season though, because I was burnt out. And I thought the show cut into a lot of my free time where I was very much wanting to do drugs instead.
Right.
And so
I think that was the 80s.
Yeah, that got in the way of that.
Right.
So I left the show after 5 years and just, I goofed off. I don't know what I bought
You
a
goofed
ranch.
off?
I built a ranch in Ojai on 100 acres. And
right.
I just dropped
So you
out.
could go out there and do drugs, right?
Yeah, I just dropped out.
I was off the grid.
Let me do my drugs in peace.
I was off
point.
the grid. I was absolutely
well,
off
that
the
is
grid.
kind of off the grid if you're used to being in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then you went on and you did that 80s show and
No.
because there was that 80s show, which would be interesting to me because I was the 80s. The 80s were really big.
That show, I wrote the pilot with 2 other people. I wrote it with Linda Wallum, who created Nurse Jackie, and one of the Turners. And
I saw that. That was good.
I wrote the pilot, and then I never went back. And she was the showrunner, and I was like, I tried to tell Fox not to do that, not to name it that, because I thought it was going to be held up to this other thing that's already a big hit. And he goes, no, it's like Law and Order. I go, right, but it's not, because you're never going to get, like Jerry Orbach's, you're never going to get that kind of a thing going. I mean, that works on dramas. I don't think it does work on comedies. I mean, Chuck Lorre did it, obviously, with Big Bang and Sheldon, but I just felt like it was a terrible idea. So, but they really wanted something. What they had said was, well, we want to make Mila Kunis and Laura Prepon Laverne and Shirley. And I was like, no, because they're on this show. They're the 2 main female leads with Deborah Jo Rupp. I said, if you take them off, that's like Laverne and Shirley were just guest stars on Happy Days. They just guested. They dated Richie and Fonzie, I think. I don't even remember, but I thought you can't give up that's the powerful female cast members. I said, you can't do that. It's a terrible idea. So they wanted me to do a companion show, and that became, we all agreed to do that 80s show.
Okay, so it's a companion show. You're not going to actually take
No.
Mila and make her take out.
No, I would not. I did not. I was completely against that, and as were everybody at the company. Who said, no, you don't take them off a hit show. I didn't believe that would work.
Wow. I can't imagine that would work either. I know that we have a lot of bands that come in and then they replace their singer, like Van Halen, and we were just talking about it last week. Who else was it? Somebody, Dino Caceres was on with Fear Factory, and they were talking about how they replaced their singer, and people just don't relate. Once we get it in our mind that a certain person plays a certain role, it's very hard to just take another actor and make them Rambo.
Yeah.
Once Stallone is out of the picture and you bring in like Jim Carrey or somebody, he's just not Rambo.
Well, that was kind of like the Dukes of Hazzard when they tried to take off the 2 stars and replace them, and then the ratings dropped. They thought they could just...
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very rare occasions. The Who replaced this drummer, and also AC/DC absolutely killed it. And I do want to say I saw AC/DC with Bon Scott in 1977. So that was like a highlight. I saw Leonard Skinner too with.
Oh, so did I.
Ronnie,
one of my favorite people.
With Van Zandt.
Yeah.
The original Van Zandt. So I'm always like, I saw the cool bands, guys. Really sorry. you know, when millennials talk about their life, I'm like,
I saw them too, millennials. I saw them on my iPhone, right? It's like, and you're like, oh my God, you've never been to a live concert. 50,000 screaming people. I did Guns N' Roses at Wembley Stadium in London, England for 57,000 people. And appeared on stage for them, and that was the rush of my life. And I did it was amazing. If in their prime. This was in 1990 or 1991, and just unbelievable. I also did a show with Aerosmith right around that same era, and Aerosmith was like,
that was my favorite band.
Yeah, there was nobody like Stephen and Joe. I mean, if you're from, you know, our era, then, you know, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, you never, you know, it changes you forever.
I probably saw them like 4 times.
You did?
Yeah, I would always go see Aerosmith.
I know.
Since we're on the border of Canada, we see Rush for like $3.
Right? Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, it wasn't exactly $3, but anyway. So now you guys are working. Right.
Back when I was a kid, $3.
Back when I was a kid, knee deep in the snow. So now you guys are working together. You have a production company. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about Alea. Come into the conversation, pretty girl.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. So what was it like working with Eleanor Coppola? I remember talking to you when you were studying, and I'm going to let you tell us about your role with that.
It was really fun, and at first I had done the audition, and I didn't really I didn't know who I was auditioning for at all, and then all of a sudden I realized when I had booked it who I was going to be working with, and I loved Hearts of Darkness. The Heart of Darkness was one of my, I liked it better than the film in a way.
Right.
And so when she came over for the fitting, I was just like, oh my God, Eleanor, it's such a pleasure to meet you. And she's like, you're not French? And I'm like, oh, yes. En fait, je parle français. Je suis complètement française. and so, she was very, because it was a French part. It was, and she, was very, she's a Francophile, a real Francophile. She made a wonderful movie in France, and
this is the one where I was talking to you, and you were like in the hotel or wherever,
in the
and
Hotel
you were
Kabuki,
studying wine, right?
And she made me speak with a French accent the whole time, and I told a friend of mine, and my friend was like, the actors are going to hate you.
No, that was me.
You're the one who. That's right.
You were calling me for support.
That's right.
Because she was making you speak French for the whole time.
That's right. And you were telling me about a friend of yours who had gotten, who was speaking with an accent for a film and the other actor felt very betrayed and never talked to them again. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, so the workaround that I found, because I had, 2 girls that I was staying with, and I told them with my French accent that I had been instructed that I was capable of speaking with an American accent, but I was instructed to speak with a French accent. And on the very last day, she had me come in and surprise everybody. So that was kind of fun.
What was it like working with Sybil Shepherd?
Oh,
did you work with her on the set?
Well, we sat next to each other. It was an ensemble piece, and all.
She's known as a tough lady, an actress.
She is. She and I were peas in a pod, and we got along so well, and we were sitting next to each other, and to this day we're very, very close. And I love Sybil with all my heart. And one of the best moments of the film, the girls were very chatty, and it would, Sybil and I just are like to hyper focus. And oh my God, yes, ma'am. And but But when it came time for Sybil's close-up, everybody knew to be real quiet because she did not like the chitter-chatter in between takes.
I heard she's tough. She's a tough.
She concentrates.
I'm like that, though. I'm very concentrated. When I'm on the set to work,
She could not be more lovely. She just likes to concentrate. Right. And she tolerated this chitter-chatter, but everybody was very respectful when it was about, her close-up. And so she has her nose in her script, and she's concentrating. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's not a sound on set. And all of a sudden, Sybil perks up and goes, "Well, I've had enough dick to last me a lifetime."
Oh my God.
Completely unprompted out of nowhere. And I'm like, that is my girl.
Alea would laugh at something like that because I was trying to tell her. I remember when I first met you and people were like, "Oh my God, do you know who that is? Do you know what she used to do? Do you know what she did in the 80s? Do you know? And you were like, "Oh, girl."
Yeah, I've always been very proud of you.
Right? And
yes.
we became instant friends.
Because you're so bright and you're such a good businesswoman and you're an incredible talent. And I just always really respected the fact that you come in, you know how to command a room, you're so
or at
good.
least I think I do.
Well, you do. I've seen you. I have seen you.
That's what happens when you grow up with boys.
Yeah.
Okay, when you grow up with a big family and you come from brothers, and I'm the second to the youngest, I come in and I'm like.
Yeah, I don't think you get ignored in a lot of rooms.
I agree.
I don't think.
But neither does Alea. Does Alea. But
and the two of us together.
Yeah,
the blonde and the
we've
brunette.
done so many amazing things together.
Yeah.
Karuna Mai. We've meditated together. We've hung out together. We've traveled together.
Yeah.
Just really. And I'm just so proud of you
and
the
we've
work
laughed
that you
a lot together.
We've laughed a lot together.
Yeah.
And so here you go. And I'm so happy for you guys,
Thank
right?
you.
And now you guys are together.
Yeah.
You have some projects in a production company that you're working on. So
Yeah.
tell us about it in your own words.
So we have 3 main projects that we're working on right now. One is...
Well, wait a minute, though.
Yeah.
Don't go too fast. You got together, you got a relationship. How did you guys meet?
Well, we knew
Was it
each
boy
other.
meets girl on something campus?
No,
So I had a friend who is very psychic who kept telling me there's this. I see you with this guy. He's around you. You know him. There's books everywhere around him, and I'm like, no. And she kept telling me this for about a year.
He's from New York.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And she had no clue.
And I was completely clueless. We were in the same circle, but I just had never,
She thought I was homeless. And then we knew each other for like a year.
There you go. That's perfect, right?
She did. She thought I was homeless.
You poor thing, because she loves, she's always wanted to bring home the dog that nobody wants.
Why did she think he was homeless?
You had that Chihuahua on the show the last time you
up.
were on my show. You had that broken down old Chihuahua.
Yeah, Freckles. Oh
Freckles.
My God. Only she would love Freckles. Freckles had like a tooth and just skin problems and just it looked like a dog that you would see in a horror movie. And I see pictures of it and I go, "You are the sweetest, kindest person in the world."
She brought the dog in a purse, just like it was Paris Hilton. She carried this dog around like she thought she was Paris Hilton, and then this dog would stick its head out, and I'd be like, and I love animals. Okay, I was like,
she met me.
She was like, nobody else will love her. I love her.
Well,
we liked each other. We would be around and make each other laugh, and then.
I'm sapiosexual.
Well, and I was like, I was trying to. I had a wedding ring on, and because there was a marriage, and then
there was a marriage at that time.
But that was like a thing that I knew, and so I took the ring off, and we knew each other, but she didn't know who I was. She didn't know anything about me, and she goes, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I was a writer." She goes, "What'd you write?" I go, "I wrote that '70s show." She goes, "Yeah, I never saw it." I was like, "That's perfect." So I took the ring
You
off.
never saw it, and you're an actress.
You know what?
TV.
I did not have a TV in those days. I was living on Burton Way in Robertson in an apartment, a sweltering apartment. You know, I was a struggling actress, and
That's what I said. Ashton Kutcher. She goes, "Yeah, I don't know him." I was like,
Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Well,
this
now I guess you don't mention it like that anymore because those two are not together anymore. But don't say I said it.
together anymore.
Right.
So yeah, we just then she said, "Well, we should get coffee sometime." That was just the start of it. And then she went to D.C. and we texted each other for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then when she got back, we things
his
happened.
wife
And
had
how
left.
long has it
His
been?
wife
No,
was
my-
long
Okay.
gone.
My wife moved to Texas, and she took my horse.
Well, at least she didn't take your daughter. From what I understand, you guys were going to have dinner this week, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 daughters from a previous marriage. I have a couple marriages.
Oh,
They're
you-
fun. You get 2. It's nice to have a set. really.
Right. No, that's good.
So the first wife is the mother of my 2 girls, and then the second wife was the
So
one
we've
who
got
bought all those
projects in
horses.
the works, right?
So-
We have
Besides a relationship, you guys have been together for a couple of years. You've got some projects in the works. So tell our people about them so we can get you some.
What do you?
So, well, do you want to tell him about Sketchy first? Before
Well, yeah,
we
there's a
start?
show called Sketchy. 5 minutes, by the way. Show called Sketchy, a pilot that I wrote. My mother passed away in April. And
I'm sorry to
Sorry
hear
for your
that.
loss.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I had written a pilot like a month before she passed away, and I'd let a couple other producer writers read it, and it's basically about an ex-junkie who runs a kids show. So
Oh goodness.
because I worked for Disney, which is so but it's a comedy. It's sort of like Ted Lasso meets the producers or Larry Sanders. So I wrote it, and Alea and I wrote it, and we rewrote it, and then it became this thing that's just really based on all my years here, and the type of people you meet, and we love it, right?
Yeah.
We love it, and it's sort of a dark comedy, but it's very honest, sort of a comedy.
When do we go into production on this? I'm excited.
No, I haven't sold it because I haven't shown it to anybody because, like I said, my mom died, and I said, all right, well, I'm going to put it in a drawer, and Alea and I just put it away, but
just
we
for
will.
now, but we're pulling it out, and it's
It's time.
it's
Get it out,
very
dust
good.
it off, guys. The pandemic is over. It's time to get back out there again. I know it's been hard on all of us.
And
but-
I think it's going to really hit a sweet spot for a lot of people, this show, because it's very raw, it's very funny, it's very current, and it's a lot of truth telling.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I stopped drinking and smoking weed and doing drugs in October of 2018, and but the entire
Congratulations.
time I worked
That's
on
what, 6 years ago?
No, it's 4 in next month. But
Yay.
I was just smoking weed constantly while I'm working on a kids show for Disney. So, and by the way, Chris Thompson had a show on Disney at the same time as I did, which I thought was very interesting. I don't know if you remember Chris Thompson. He's a great writer. Created Action, and but then it's it's interesting because you're making content for children. You're shaping the young minds of America, and you're high as shit. And it's like Permanent Midnight. If you ever read that book or watched that movie, Jerry Stahl wrote it, and he worked on Alf, and he was a junkie the entire time, and it's sort of hysterical when you think about it. So this is just basically about.
So how do your fans follow you guys and support your projects now?
So, well, the big project that we have in the works right now is Aurora and Massock, and Massock is basically the father of the masochistic movement, and he, and Sod really has very little to do in the equation because there's no consent, but BDSM, which is all about contracts and consensual
absolutely.
agreements.
Yeah.
But that would have to be an entirely another show because we would
That's-
really have to
yeah.
break it down. So when you guys get that project together,
We're gonna
we
do that one in
definitely, because
Europe.
we're running out of time now. We're getting our flag from. I can't believe it. We got to have you back on the show when you get that project together.
Absolutely.
But how do your fans go right now if they want to support you guys? Because you said you haven't sold the project yet. Where do they follow you? What's your handle?
I actually quit Facebook.
You did?
Yeah, and then because I thought I can't, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever. And so then I'm on Instagram, and then he buys Instagram, and I'm like, well, I'm not giving up Instagram. But the problem with following me on Instagram is you have to ask to follow me.
I followed you, so it's Mark Brazil.
You followed
And
me?
You know what?
Instagram. Yes, I did. And Alea for you. Who's your
Alea
phone?
Oberon. However, if anybody wants to follow us, they should follow you.
Okay. Follow me, and I will direct you back to them. Guys, I can't believe it. That's all the time we have for tonight's show. I'd like to thank our live guests, Mark Brazil and Alea Oberon. Thank you guys so much. I want to have you guys back on the show when you get your new projects coming out, and anytime you want to come back on the show, right?
you.
Thank you, Joe, for sitting there so quietly.
My pleasure.
Right?
Thank you,
For
Joe.
sponsorship or advertising on our show, guys, drop us a line at amberlynnmedia@gmail.com. You can follow us at Rock-N-Sexxy, and please do on all our social media handles. See you again next week.
Thank you for tuning in to Amber Lynn's Rock-N-Sexxy Uncensored, available on rockandSexxyUncensored.com. Don't forget to hit us up on all your favorite social media links, and tune in next week for another amazing episode of Rock-N-Sexxy Uncensored.